Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. I do have one quick favor before we get to the video that you came here for, and that is very simply this. You see that little red subscribe button below this video? Go ahead, smash that subscribe button. It really does help me. It really does help this channel grow and my audience grow. So go ahead and hit that red subscribe button. And now, here is the video that you came here for. All right, finally, let's wrap with one more college basketball story before we get out of here. And how about this? Busy day on Alabama for the show. We talked about Alabama being number 2 in the college football playoff poll earlier in the show. Now we have to wrap on Alabama basketball. And it wasn't that long ago that I would not even talk Alabama basketball on this show because it was basically irrelevant. Outside of a nice little run with Colin Sexton there for 1 year where they made the second round of the NCAA tournament, we never really talked Bama on this show. I don't even think I was doing this podcast when Colin Sexton was at Alabama. But the point is, Alabama basketball was mostly off the radar. Nate Oats shows up. Nate Oats immediately has success. And in year 2, Nate Oats wins the SEC regular season title, SEC tournament title, and of course makes the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2004 at Alabama. So why am I talking about Alabama today? It is because this week, Nate Oats had a recruiting day for the ages in what is quickly becoming a recruiting year for the ages at Alabama, okay? So my job is to always keep you updated. What's going on in college football? What's going on in college basketball? Sometimes we'll talk something else. Well, let me tell you this. Monday was a very busy day in recruiting, especially at Alabama. First of all, around, I think it was 1 p.m. Central Time, 11 p.m. Pacific Time, Brandon Miller, 5-star wing, about 6'8", 200 pounds, needs to put on a little bit of weight, made his college announcement. He was down to Alabama, Kansas, Tennessee State, and a few pro options. And what did he choose? Drum roll, please. Did he choose Kansas? No. Did he choose one of those pro options? No. No, he chose to play for Nate Oats at Alabama. He is the second 5-star prospect that has committed to Alabama in this recruiting cycle, joining Jaden Bradley, who committed to Alabama just a few weeks ago. We talked about him on the Aaron Torres podcast. And then, as if that wasn't enough, as if Nate Oats wasn't already busy celebrating the commitment of Brandon Miller, later that afternoon, around, 4 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Pacific, something like that. I can't even remember the exact time. Drum roll, please. Noah Clowney, 6'9" forward, out of South Carolina, made his college announcement. And you can probably guess where I'm going with this. He chose Alabama. Noah Clowney, top 60 prospect, power forward from the state of South Carolina, chooses Alabama. So in one day, Alabama received commitments from 2 top 60 prospects, and the 1 5-star Brandon Miller is the second 5-star, the second potential McDonald's All-American, and the second top 20 prospect to commit to Alabama in this recruiting cycle. Let me just say this. Nate Oats is on a recruiting bender for the ages, and the SEC is on a recruiting bender for the ages. And so let's talk about it, and let's break it down. First of all, in terms of the players, I say it all the time. I mean, these kids are perfect fits, right? And I give so much credit to all of these coaches for finding kids that fit who they are and what their program is about. Calipari, one and done. Come here, be ready to compete right away, be ready to play right away because I only plan on having you for 1 year. I'm a UConn alum. Dan Hurley, I've never talked to him about this. I've tried to get him on the podcast a million times. It's never worked out. He is more of a developmental guy. If you want to come here and be out in 6 months, this probably isn't the place for you. And the thing about Alabama, the thing that we learned last year, they are going to play fast, they are going to shoot a lot of threes, and they are going to be hyper athletic. And so why do I bring it up? It is because these two players signify exactly who Alabama is and exactly what they want to be under Nate Oats. Brandon Miller, as I said, 6'8". He is a future NBA player, probably a lottery pick, probably a one-and-done type talent. But he is a big 6'8", super athletic, can get to the rim, can shoot, can do all of the things that you want in a modern small forward. Kind of his size, his length, the need to put on weight. He reminds me of kind of Brandon Ingram when Brandon Ingram was at Duke. And then Noah Clowney is 6'9", plays close to the rim, but he's kind of that new age guy too. He can step out, he can shoot from a distance, but he's really good around the rim, but is not a plodding, slow, big. He is quick, he is athletic, he is quick twitch, shot blocker, rim runner, quick putback, quick jumps, whatever. And these are two guys that fit Alabama perfectly. And so, first of all, what I will say, it continues a recruiting run for the ages of Alabama. I talked about it a few weeks ago when Jaden Bradley committed. But if you start to think about all of the guys that have committed to Alabama just under Nate Oats, it is absolutely incredible. Now, all of these guys are not high school players, but if you go back and look at what Nate Oats has done, it is actually pretty incredible, okay? So 2 years ago, he brings in Javon Quinterly, a McDonald's All-American who had previously played at Villanova. He is a transfer. Javon Quinterly sits out. Last year he plays, but the bottom line is Javon Quinterly, McDonald's All-American. This past year, he goes out, signs Namari Burnett via the transfer portal, former McDonald's All-American, who unfortunately will not play this year. I forgot to mention, by the way, Josh Primo, 5-star guard who was drafted by the San Antonio Spurs. J.D. Davison, who is a McDonald's All-American from the 2021 class. So even if you just take the guards, 2018 McDonald's All-American with Javon Quinterly, transferred in, played this past season, preseason All-SEC player. You have on top of that Namari Burnett, former McDonald's All-American. He's a transfer. J.D. Davison, he's a transfer. Now you have two potential McDonald's All-Americans in Brandon Miller and Jaden Bradley in what is quickly becoming a top 10 recruiting class, and they might not be done. On top of that, it's also worth noting, brought in some other good players over the years as well. Charles Badeko, who's a 5-star forward who was in this most recent recruiting class. And so the point that I'm trying to make is that Nate Oats is recruiting at an insane level. And what I would also say is I don't think we're going to have time for where Aaron was right, where Aaron was wrong. This is something I talked about in year one of the Nate Oats era. If you go back and listen to the podcast sometime in January of 2020, I vividly remember this. Alabama played Auburn at home at Coleman Coliseum. I believe they lost the game. Auburn was really good that year. It was the year they were coming off of a Final Four. But I bring it up because Alabama lost the game. Nate Oats' first year, they would have been on the outside looking in of the NCAA tournament. But I remember at the time saying, well, wait a second now. And I talked about it on the podcast. This wasn't some abstract thought I had in my head. I said they play fast. They shoot a lot of threes. This guy is going to clean up in recruiting. And this is exactly what's going on. Number 12 ranked class in 2020, according to 24/7 Sports. Again, that included Josh Primo, who played 1 year in college basketball. Alex Tishu, who's coming off of a red shirt this past season. Number 12 class in the class of 2020. Number 14 class last season in 2021. And they now have a top 10 class in 2022. This is a credit to Nate Oats. One, fearless, aggressive, in recruiting, in the portal. This is a guy that knows what he wants from the types of players that he wants, how he wants to get them. I think he does a great job of balancing, bringing in older players, more experienced players through the portal, as well as talented young players that he believes he can develop quickly. And I do believe that Brandon Miller, the wing that I mentioned a minute ago, is one of those players. Finally, what I would say is this. About 4 or 5 years ago, I started this thing called the SEC Basketball Revolution. I started calling it the SEC Basketball Revolution because I saw something that no one else could see at the time. And I got made fun of and I got criticized on social media and all that stuff. But about probably about 5 years ago, I noticed something. I said, all these SEC schools are bringing in really good coaches. This was back then, it was Rick Barnes at Tennessee, Bruce Pearl at Auburn, Ben Howland at Mississippi State. I said Rick Barnes. Frank Martin for a time was a really highly coveted coach. Obviously, in more recent years, we have Nate Oats at Alabama. We have Eric Musselman at Arkansas. We have, you can criticize him all you want. I think he's actually a pretty good coach, is Will Wade at LSU. We have Mike White's not very good. But okay, the rest of them are good. Nate Oats, Eric Musselman, Will Wade. John Calipari obviously is the dean of college basketball coaches in the SEC. On and on and on and on and on. So why do I bring it up? It is because about 5-6 years ago I said, the SEC is rising, baby. You can argue it. You can debate it. You can call it a football conference. You can call it a basketball conference, a baseball conference. This basketball product is going to be really good. And now I look at it, and the amount of talent coming into the SEC is just staggering, okay? So first of all, last year you had a situation where Kentucky wasn't even good, and you had Arkansas and Alabama emerge. Alabama makes a Sweet 16. Arkansas makes an Elite 8. I should mention down year for Auburn, down year for Kentucky, as I just said. But you look now, Tennessee, by the way, did not live up to preseason expectations. You look now, first of all, the preseason poll has 5 SEC teams: Kentucky, Arkansas, Alabama, Auburn, and Tennessee. LSU is right on the cusp. Mississippi State is right on the cusp. And then you look at recruiting, and it is absolutely unbelievable. So I looked it up just for fun. Right now, of the top 31 prospects committed, and I know it's an abstract number, but just stick with me here. Of the top 31 prospects committed, 10 of them, I'm sorry. 10 of the top 31 high school prospects in America are committed to SEC schools. That is insane. There is no conference that is even close, and even the conferences that are close, all those recruits basically go to one place. Like the ACC has a bunch of top 30, 40 recruits. 3 of them are going to Duke. 3 of the top 10 high school players in America are going to Duke. Louisville doesn't have any. Georgia Tech doesn't have any. Notre Dame doesn't have any, whatever. UCLA in the Pac-12 is cleaning up right now. They got a Dembona the other day. UCLA is the only one outside of maybe Oregon that is cleaning up in the Pac-12. USC is doing good as well. The SEC across the board is monstrous in recruiting. 10 of the top 31 prospects, and they're spread out all around the conference, okay? So I looked it up. Of the top 31 prospects, Kentucky has 3, Shaden Sharp, Chris Livingston, and Sky Clark. Arkansas has 2. We've talked about them, Jordan Walsh and also Nick Smith Jr., who almost didn't get eligible. We have Nick Smith Jr., if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can look it up. Alabama has Jaden Bradley and Brandon Miller, as I just talked about. And LSU, Auburn, and Florida have 1 each. And so I just bring this up to say, I was saying this 3-4 years ago. I said SEC basketball is coming. You can argue it. You can debate it. You can fight me on it. But it is coming, and now it is really coming to fruition as Alabama has picked up 2 top 60 commitments in one day, including 5-star Brandon Miller. And I'll tell you this, they may just be getting started. SEC basketball is going to be unreal this year. If you enjoyed this video, do me a quick favor. Make sure to subscribe to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube channel. Also, make sure you're following on social media at Aaron_Torres on Twitter, at Aaron Torres Pod on Instagram.